You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
We're back with the Mayor of Tinian, Joe Nicholas, as well as UOG student and Tinian resident Kyle Sandbergen. And we're talking, of course, about the military buildup in the CNMI, in this case, and particularly the perspective of Tinian. Now, there are some, you would come out here a couple of weeks ago, I think, and you met with Speaker Wampat and Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, and you're wanting to, again, to get some guidance and how to approach this, and I guess it's your council and the other leaders there and said, Mayor, see how we can approach this. Now, you guys have a covenant, we don't. You have a status that we don't. So in learning the differences between Guam's status versus your status, because you had a 60-year lease. We don't have an expiration date in our lease. We don't have a lease. But that being said, what have you learned at this point, Guam's buildup versus Tinian's buildup?
Well, although there's probably differences in our status, there's really no difference in the potential impact to the people and to the island. And through this process, it's called the NEPA process. The community is given an opportunity to comment, to review and to comment. And then the Department of Defense or Navy, they make a determination. So I guess regardless of the differences we may have politically, the impact that these types of activities will have on our island, I think are pretty much the same. And because Guam had an opportunity several years ago to go through that process, and I think Guam had a 10,000 page document. I thought that it would be appropriate for me to visit with the speaker. And let me just say this: Speaker came to Tinian about a month ago, or a month and a half ago. We had a conference there that was hosted by our Women's Association.
And that's when the sharing of knowledge.
Yeah, that's what she shared. You know, her experience, not just as a public servant, but as a mother, as an auntie, as somebody who cares for the island. And that really hit a nerve with me. And she brought Dr. Natividad and Miss Leon Guerrero from her office. And so, you know, this is just a couple of days before, you know, we were to receive the document. So I was like, you know what, next time I go to Guam, I would love to, I will accept the invitation by Speaker Wampat to visit with her, and that's what I did. I was actually here on some other business. I received an economic update from the Bank of Guam, and I took the opportunity to visit with our young people here. But on the top of that agenda, of course, was to visit with.
No, obviously, again, as we speak, or before that, you had folks who are there from the federal side doing studies, of course, and all that. And have you had a chance to network with them, and what their concerns were based on their studies? Did they come to you, or even your predecessor, and get more information that could be included in their studies, for people who grew up in the land? Someone who would know, that particular area, Tinian, would be its residents. Now maybe they have expertise that you don't, or other folks, but in regards to the culture, land, and things of that nature, it's I don't think any one of the folks from the federal side who came out there to make study, they probably grew up in a little town, but not in probably a little island.
Sure.
So what, in your networking with them, what was the sentiment?
Well, my networking with the military?
With the military, or the folks that were out there that were putting this, the environmental impact statement together, and what did they have a dialogue with the residents, as they were making a study? Because when you put a statement together, one would assume that you would holistically look at this piece, right? And say, I've talked to the residents, all this, and these are the concerns, so that's what they would come in regards to, and that's what we're reading. And obviously the EIS, when it came out in their own words, whoo.
Yes. Well, I think you're talking about the scoping meeting?
The scoping meeting,
So there are scoping meetings, I believe about a year or two ago, and that, of course, is an opportunity again for the people to voice their concerns. Really not much in the area of providing information, just accepting whatever comments from the mayor's office, from like coastal resources management and the other environmental agencies and even residents. I had very limited kind of an opportunity to
And you weren't
speak
in
with
office
them.
at the time.
I
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
I wasn't. I was actually serving in another capacity. I do recall communicating with some for the divert airfield draft EIS. But
You were a
not
senior
for
the
the
time, though,
CGA.
right?
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Kyle can shed some light. If
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
On the
Did you talk to any of the folks?
And
that
the
came out
scoping
to,
meeting that they
do
had
some
about a year
studies of
ago
Tinian?
when you were still going to high school over there.
Well, yeah. Well, with the environmental impact statement, because we review, a few of me and my classmates actually reviewed an overview and a summary of the environmental impact statement. And well, what kind of struck a chord with us was the purpose of the EIS. And stated in the EIS is their purpose, and that was to reduce training deficiencies and to increase and meet training requirements in the Western Pacific. And with that, I feel like the youth reading that, we felt more like less of a people and more of a quota having to be met by the United States military. And I feel that even though the United States has taken precautionary measures to reduce or minimize the adverse effects they have in our social economics, culturally, I feel like they have a long way to go to prove to the people that, especially the youth, that their activity on Tinian will be beneficial to us in the long run.
You know, some will say, of course, this is the cost of freedom. And, you know, we have men and women who put their lives in harm's way, of course. And we, on a daily basis, we enjoy the benefits, not knowing that they've done, or knowing that they do that daily basis. It's got to happen somewhere.
Sure.
And so this is the cost. How do you respond to that? Because we know that as well.
Sure.
we
Well,
know that as
Senator,
well.
let me just say this. I'm a proud father of a U.S. airman. My son, Roman, he is serving as Air Force Reserve in Texas. And, he's wanted to be an airman for the longest time, and he's finally there. It was just about a year or two ago when he entered the service. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of the military, that what they do around the world. There's a lot of good that the military do. So I'm not anti-military.
Sure.
And yes, there is a cost of freedom. I understand that. We, more than anybody else,
Sure.
as indigenous people here, understand what the cost of freedom is. We've seen it. Our grandparents have felt it.
Sure.
Many have sacrificed, and our children sacrificed their lives too. But this is a process. It's the NEPA process. You've provided me with a draft environmental impact statement. You want to know what I feel, what my people feel. This is how we feel. You want to know what the impact is? I'll tell you what the impact is. You're going to change our way of life. Live fire training is not good for Tinian. To hurl grenades from 2,000 feet up in the air, aiming for the island of Tinian, is not good for Tinian. And I said this at another talk show. It's inert. You can throw an inert table from 2,000 feet up in the air down to what we call Hinodi Shrine. I don't think it's right. So we're commenting on a draft EIS that was provided to us by the Department of Defense. That's all we're doing. You want to know what our druthers are? These are our druthers. No live fire training. Because the environment, the people, the culture, the economy will be negatively impacted.
Kyle? Yeah, again, you know, when we talk about the future, we're actually looking at the future, right?
Yeah,
here,
right here. Yeah.
We're looking at the future. You're going to be handing off the baton to Kyle here, right? Maybe sooner than later, right?
Yeah.
So, but Kyle, you're the future. What do you foresee? I mean, in all of your studies, in all, you know, when we look at history, look at recent history.
Right.
What are the chances are that the sentiments of the people of Tinian will be heard, and even if they're heard and maybe not yield to, what most scares you? What frightens you? Because you want to return home.
Right.
You want, I mean, to stay. You know.
Stay, right.
What most frightens you about that? Because you might not have a home to return to.
Right.
Or would you want to at that point, right?
Right, and like what I said earlier about going, leaving Tinian and coming back and feeling like it's home again, I feel like with this, I guess my greatest fear would be that the voice of the people will not be heard as much enough for the United States military to yield to. And I feel like a lot of opinions thrown around by the people will probably not be heard as well. And I feel like when I do come home, probably maybe 15, 20 years from now, and come back home to have a family, I won't be able to tell my children that, this is the home I grew up in. This is, this is the Tinian that I grew up in. These are the people I got to know.
You're not going to be able to show them the Tinian that you grew up in, maybe a whole different Tinian.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I got to take a quick break and then we'll come back, okay?
All right.
Be right back.